All right, so this is a Windows 11 computer workstation that it's not joined to the domain. And we're going to explain about password best practices when it comes to a workstation. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look for as soon as you start typing in the search box, group policy, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to edit the group policy on this local computer. So I'm going to click on this, and here's the group policy. This is a policy that will apply to the computer configuration. So that means that anybody that logs into the computer, this will apply. By the way, password policy can only be applied to the computer. So you cannot apply a password policy on a Windows 10, Windows 11 computer to a specific group. It's either all or nothing, right? So here I am going to expand security settings, then account policies. And what I'm looking for right here is the password policy. So this is a password policy out of the box. Some of these are self-explanatory. The enforced password policy history. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say 5. So the people cannot reuse the same password up to like the same last 5 last passwords, for example. That's basically what that means there. The maximum password age, 42 is the default. I'm actually gonna make this, you know, long. I don't really want people to, as a matter of fact, this is a training computer, so I don't really, I'm gonna make this like a whole year so people don't have to change the password. Most companies, a lot of companies have like a 90-day, 180, and so forth. Microsoft recommendation and NIST, the and other cybersecurity related companies state that as long as you have a strong password and you use a strong authentication like multi-factor authentication, there's no need to actually be changing the password that frequently unless there is a data breach or your password has been compromised and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so for this case, I'm gonna make it 365 days. In the minimum password age, I'm gonna make it 1, basically meaning, and this is a common thing in many company, basically meaning that if somebody changes the password, they cannot change it right back, right? So they have to wait at least 1 day before they change the password again. The minimum password length, I'm gonna make this 10. The recommendation is that the length of the password is one of the most important thing. Okay, but again, this is a lab computer, so I'm gonna make it 10. I personally, in any of my accounts, I normally use at least 12 characters or longer, depending on the criticality of the service. Like, for example, my email address, I would use at least 14, 15 characters long, and my bank and all that stuff. And one of the most important thing when it comes to passwords is that you use different accounts for different services, right? And yeah, it's really inconvenient because then you need to remember too many passwords and username, right? Well, nowadays there are many password managers that you could use. We'll talk about that later on, but the more the fact is you should not be using one username and password for everything. So I'm going to make it that 10. I don't care about these password length audit. This is unrelated that we're not going to talk about here. The other feature we're going to do here is the must meet password complexity. So this means that the password must have, letters and numbers, and also you could not use the username as part of the password, for example. So I'm going to do that. The other things are, again, for backward compatibility and other features that are not so but related to what we're doing here. So these are the most important features. And there you go. So here I have set up the password. So when if somebody tries to create, let's say, an account on this computer and the account doesn't meet the password complexity, then it won't work. So if let's say that I try to, if I, try to create a password on this computer. So I'm going to go to manage. And from here, I'm going to go to local users and password. I'm going to go to users. And let's say that I tried to create that I try to create an account here. I'm going to say new user, and I'm going to call it test1. I don't want the user to change the password next log on because this is for testing purposes. I could configure this for the user cannot change the password. If I didn't want the user to do that, that's fine. I could configure the password never expires so that the 365 days password length that I created then wouldn't apply. I could also disable the account over here. But for this user, I'm just creating, normal account. Now in the password, I'm going to type something simple, something that doesn't comply with the password policy. And when I click on create, it says the following error occurred while attempting to create user test on this computer. And so the error says the password does not meet the password policy requirement. Check the minimum password length, the password complexity, and the password history requirement. So those three pieces are basically the most important things that will be checked when you try to create an account that will not meet the policy compliance. And there you go. So that's how you would set up the password best practices on a local computer that is not joined to the domain.